going on right now. So it was unclear going into this race, whether or not he would be able to win a big majority. I think we all sort of assumed and knew that it would go to this ranked choice voting system because I think most people figured nobody would get 50% or just over 50%. So the ranked choice voting is confusing. And it's even harder to explain, I think, sometimes. That's why the city of Minneapolis has this little video with, it's like, if ranked choice voting was a pizza topping, here's how it works. So I think it was interesting that even when we knew that that Fry was the top vote getter in the first round of votes, when those were tabulated, that it was still unclear if he could win the race. But then once those candidates that dropped off the list, those folks who had voted for a candidate that couldn't win, their second choice, those votes all went to either Fateh or Fry, then he had enough to win the race. So I think what's interesting for Mayor Fry is the dynamic of the city council in Minneapolis. 13 wards. There's a lot of tension, even though we're talking about all of these candidates who are Democrats. There's different factions of the Democratic Party now. And with the city council, they have been at odds at times over what direction, what policies. Homeless encampments have been a big one. And he's had to veto before. And so now it looks like the dynamic on the city council is about evenly split with one person who might always be a swing vote. So we'll just continue to see probably very fiery city council meetings, but it will be interesting to see where this goes. We were talking in our afternoon meeting that you can't really even take Minneapolis and what happened and say, oh, it's just like this other city, like New York, for instance. I think Minneapolis is its own unique thing. And what happens in New York or Virginia or New Jersey, it's just different here. It's its own entity with its own issues, and local politics are always going to govern elections. Whatever people care about locally, that's what they're going to go to the polls and vote about. So, and you guys, did you see a big turnout when you went to your polling places?
Yeah, for sure. I saw a lot of people at my voting place for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Same here. Even after work at 6 o'clock, there were it took a little bit just to kind of get in and get involved. So yeah, which is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, for sure. That's always a good sign.
Yeah.
You talking about local politics? Obviously, you've been covering local politics for a while, but fewer people in the Twin Cities know more about local politics than you. Well, what is covering an election like? Whether it be one of these kind of like smaller elections or just like a presidential election, like from the newsroom's angle?
Yeah, I think it's always fun in a newsroom because you spend the whole day waiting for polls to close to see what's actually going to happen, and everybody's here on election night. Everybody, for the most part, is scheduled to work. So I think it's like a big game. I would think, if you were looking for a sports analogy, and we get pizza delivered.
Right.
Okay, so that's the best part. There's food,
Yeah.
and everybody's just sort of buzzing throughout the day, and then you're just kind of anxiously awaiting that hurry up and wait kind of feeling. And even if it's a smaller municipal election year, which is more school referendums, school board, school referendums, city council, mayor's races, it's just interesting to just see how things will shake out. And then what does that say? Because we see politics in America, it takes these big swings. 2 years from now, we might see a swing in a different direction. So I think we're in interesting times, no matter what. And these elections tell us what people are thinking and what they have on their minds. We had a school referendum in our district, Eastern Carver County. The last one failed. I wasn't sure. Yeah. And, when it was the only thing on the ballot. How many people are going to go vote? Well, there was a pretty good crowd at our polling place. And my husband went after work. And so it was at the same place where my daughter has dance. So he watched for like an hour and a half. And he said it was very steady the whole time. I was like, that's interesting. I wonder what that means. Did people come out in crowds because they don't want to raise property taxes, but in the end it did pass. So, I think it's just fun. It's a little bit different than Paul and I were talking about the old days. My first election was 96 that I covered, a presidential race. And
You must have been like 3 at the time.
I know,
when you were
like,
covering the election.
I
That's
mean,
incredible.
I'm still
Wow.
25. I don't know
Yeah.
how, but paper
Who
ballots.
was that presidential election, by the way? That would have been H.W. Bush,
Clinton.
Clinton
Yeah.
versus
Was it Dukakis?
Michael Dukakis.
I
That
think
sounds
that's
about right,
gosh. Why I don't even know. Like I think that's right.
you're right.
It's like how many years back do I have to go? So. Yeah, I was right out of just a couple months out of college. And you're still waiting for paper ballots to get counted, and we didn't have the luxury of a computer or going online to see a Secretary of State's office numbers come in. So you have to physically have a person at the Secretary of State's office and wait for them to physically come out and write on a chalkboard or a whiteboard. And then you have to go. We had a bag phone, which was a cell phone that you plugged into the lighter of a car, or you used the pay phone and you call back to the station and tell them the numbers that they just put up on the board. But that almost was fun. It was like a circus-y kind of event because like students in a classroom, we'd all sit and wait patiently for those numbers to be written on the chalkboard.
That's awesome.
Do you have like a? Sorry. Do you
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just off the top of your head, do you have like a craziest election that you've covered?
2000. So I was working in Michigan, and I was still pretty young at that time, and we have this presidential election that's not decided. But I was also covering a U.S. Senate seat in Michigan that was not decided. So I was in Detroit and downtown at a hotel. Spence Abraham was the incumbent. Debbie Stabenow was the challenger. And it was too close to call. And so we're in a ballroom. All of these reporters start taking tablecloths and putting them over themselves. And they're like trying to take cat naps on the floor of this ballroom. But I was so into it because, I was only a few years into the business. I watched the national coverage of the presidential race for hours while we waited for results to come in for this race. And I just couldn't get over how crazy it was that we didn't know who our president was. And then Florida was called, and then it wasn't called. And we finally at noon the next day got the results. We covered the press conference. We drive back to Kalamazoo, Michigan. And the news director says, do you want to go to West Palm Beach, Florida, and cover this presidential race? We have a sister station, and you can work out of there. And I was like, sure. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. So the assistant news director who had been a photographer, he and I got on a plane a couple of hours later, and we went to West Palm Beach, and we spent more than a week there covering court cases and all of the madness over the confusing ballot and the hanging chads and watching people recount by hand all of these votes and watching the parties themselves hold these like competing press conferences. We were at the Emergency Management Center. That was the staging center for the press. That's what they used for hurricanes. But that was the best place for us to stage because it had a huge parking lot and it was like right next to CNN. It was a wild scene that I don't think could ever happen in that way again. But there was a judge there. His name was Charles Brown, I think. And afterwards, he came out for a smoke, and we're sitting there. He said, hey, you guys are from Michigan. I'm from Michigan. I went to law school at MSU. Oh, wow. So we chatted with him, and it's like we saw him a couple times that week. And that Saturday night, all the press says, can we go into the Emergency Management Center and watch the beginning of Saturday Night Live? And he was with us, and we all went in, because he'd just done a live interview or something like that. We all went in, and we all watched to see how Saturday Night Live is going to portray this craziness that's going on. And that was, I think, the most memorable. I don't think there'll ever be anything like that again.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome. That's awesome.
I figured that was good. That 2000 election was going to be.
It was just nutty.
I can't even imagine.
And, back when you could live without sleep for days and days and days. I don't think I slept again until I came back. And it was, and I still have a poster size sample ballot from Palm Beach County. Went to talk to some talk radio guys. We did an interview with them, and they said, the supervisor of elections came in. She tried for months to explain to people this ballot is going to look a little bit different. And they pull up these big poster size sheets and like, do you want one as a souvenir? And I was like, absolutely, I want one of those as a souvenir.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's incredible. And not a bad assignment being down in West Palm for over a week, too.
I know. It was
You're
super.
Like, oh, no.
Right.
Another week.
I was like, just leave me here.
Humanity.
Kelsey, we really appreciate it. Coming up after this, we're going to play Jacob Fry's victory speech that just happened about an hour ago. But, you brought up a sports analogy, and we can't let you go. Kelsey here, Indiana Hoosiers, the number 2 in the inaugural college football playoff poll. How you feeling about the Hoosiers, Kelsey?
Well, I desperately want to know the backstory. Okay, how did they do this in 2 years? My reporter mind goes to what happened? Yeah. Because it's never really been a football school. Everything has always centered around basketball. So I'm just curious as to how all of this came together to have such an incredible football program, but I'm loving every minute of it. It's so exciting. It's got me talking to my college friends again more frequently, and they've got a new mascot. If you guys know, the Hoosiers, there isn't a mascot. That's not a thing. Yeah. So you don't have a guy in a suit running around, but they brought back a bison that had a short-lived run as a mascot in the 60s. The students, they led this effort to get a mascot. So the very first home game of the season, he parachuted in, and then he went back behind the field, and then he came out on a motorbike. And my friend Tracy, who is just one of my best friends and one of my roommates in college, she texted me, and she was like, "This is the greatest thing ever." She was sitting at the game. She was like, "This bison just parachuted in and rode around on a motorcycle." So I think people don't know what to do with themselves because for so long, it was like you go to a football game to tailgate and then hang out with your friends. And now it's like, this is the real deal. How do we celebrate? They got fireworks last year. That was one big step. It's like, ooh, we should get some fireworks. Yes. We should really celebrate.
I need some more, but they keep going on the run that are going on.
No doubt. Some more. No doubt. Kelsey, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. This was great context in regards to not just this Minneapolis mayoral election, but just elections in general, and just hearing your insights are really incredible. We appreciate it.
Well, anytime. I love coming on the show. You guys do such a great job. You're so fun to watch. I love all the guests that you have. So if you ever need, I'm just down the hall. So just give me a call.
Yeah, I'll give you the $10 for those.
Thanks for that. Yes. Good call. Thanks again, Kelsey. Appreciate it. Coming up after this, Mayor Jacob Fry's victory speech, which just happened about an hour ago. We're going to replay it back. So don't go anywhere. The afternoon shift is just getting started. Welcome back to the afternoon shift. That was a great conversation with Kelsey earlier.
Yeah, I just love hearing those stories about what it used to be like in the newsrooms, because it sounds like those videos that we see of Wall Street back in the day. I can just
100%.
imagine the utter chaos of a newsroom on election day.
No doubt. There was probably utter chaos in both the camps of both Omar Fateh and Jacob Fry last night, and obviously Jacob Fry emerged victorious and gave a victory speech that aired about an hour ago. We're going to replay that back right now. Let's take a look.
And support that we have received from the people of the city of Minneapolis. Minneapolis is a great city that is on the rise. And from right now till my final seconds in office, I will work tirelessly to do everything possible to make sure that Minneapolis is a place where everyone, regardless of your background or where you grew up, can live a brilliant life in an affordable home in a safe neighborhood. I want to thank all of my fellow candidates for stepping forward in this election. Stepping up to put your name on the ballot is in itself an act of courage. All of them love Minneapolis. And the record turnout that we saw shows our shared commitment to work together in unity for the city we love and the city where we are proud to call home. I love Minneapolis. I'm raising my family here, moved my parents out here, and we will do everything possible to make sure that my kids and yours, that my parents and yours, live in a city where we are proud to call home, where all of us can realize every bit of potential. I'm grateful also to the media, to our incredible campaign team, to my office staff in City Hall, and to the incredible people that call Minneapolis home. There are 430,000 residents that do everything possible to rally around a common cause, and that common cause is our great city. With that, I'll open it to any questions you might have.
Mayor, how do you plan to work with the council this term? With some seats with the
We did.
together?
Well, here's what I say. I'm optimistic. When you finish an election and you start a new term, you should do everything possible to start afresh. And I will work in good faith with anyone that will work in good faith with me. And what I will say is we should not be looking for where the fault lines are or whether they exist. The goal should be to find common unity. We had record turnout in this election. More people than ever before voted. This was the first election since 2009 where the winner got more than 50% of the vote. And what I think that symbolizes is a moment where the people have decided. The people rose up, they spoke out, and regardless of which candidate you ultimately chose, here's the thing. The people that voted care deeply about our city, and I care deeply about them. Whether you voted for me or not, I will be a mayor that will work hand in hand with you on some of the most difficult challenges that we face. Whether you supported me or not, we're going to work together. I think that should be the obligation for each and every one of us. Again, not to find the fault line, but to look for unity. That's something that we need more than ever right now in our politics, both nationally and here at home.
What do you think is the voters sent a message regarding kind of socialism here in Minneapolis that is not
I don't think I'm the one to be a pundit on what message precisely they're sending ideologically. I do think the message that has been sent loud and clear is that we have to love our city more than our ideology. We need to be doing everything possible to push back on authoritarianism and what Donald Trump is doing. And at the same time, the opposite of Donald Trump extremism is not the opposite extreme. The opposite of Donald Trump extremism is good, thoughtful governance, where we're working with our constituents, where we're working with each other. We're putting aside the unnecessary attacks, and we're finding areas of common unity. That's where we need to be going. We have run a campaign on a positive and uplifting vision, and clearly that message won the day. Yeah.
Are there things you think you can do this term that you couldn't do in the last term, perhaps by convincing one or two to come to your side on certain issues?
I think you make a fair point in that we're going to hit the ground running. We are going to have an ambitious agenda that is set up. We are going to be working not just on overarching priorities like affordable housing and safety, police reform, economic inclusion and recovery, but we're going to have some real tangible things where we're going to be working together with council members to get done as quickly as possible. This city is on the verge of a great comeback. And the way it will come back even faster is where we are all working together. And we're going to make sure we're both building out the relationships with those that agree and those that disagree, again, to find those common threads where we're all on board and we can move as ambitiously and as efficiently as possible.
What sort of tangible things? You've been in office for 8 years now. You said you've got an ambitious agenda. What's number one?
Yeah. First, there are some remaining pieces of government structure that should be changed. A lot of it is based on culture. While technically many measures of government structure have already changed, there's 100 years worth of culture that have been baked into the walls of City Hall. And we need to make sure that we have the right setup and organization so that we're able to roll things out as quickly as possible. Second, I've said this before, we need to move ambitiously and with urgency around issues like safety. We need to create a foundation of safety in every neighborhood. We've seen some of the successes that we've had on the north side. We want to implement a lot of those measures on the south side as well. That requires partnership. That requires additional police officers, which we are going to be recruiting as quickly as possible. That means one of the pieces is we've got to restart the campaign that was cut, the campaign to hire more police officers. And look, I can go on and on. There's going to be a number of other issues as well. Stable homes, stable schools, which is arguably the program that I'm most proud of. We want to make sure that it is held strong and consistent in perpetuity for years to come. Those are a few examples, but I'm sure there are many more.
I know you've said this is your final term as mayor. Do you have your sights set on a state or federal office afterwards?
I really'd like to be a prime minister of France. No.
Your message to those who did not vote for you.
Yeah.
Maybe sitting at home, they see this and go, wow. What do you want to say to them to get them to listen to
Yeah.
you? As you lead this
Yeah. Whether you voted for me or not, whether you like me or not, we have an opportunity right now to put aside differences and do what is right for Minneapolis. I think we need a whole lot more of that on the federal level, but here in Minneapolis, we can be this haven where we cooperate, where we can show that democratically run cities can work, where we operate both in reality but also with optimism. And so that's the way that I'm going to be starting this final third term. We're going to start it with a hop in our step, with a smile on our face, with an urgency of the task, but also a desire to work together in good faith. Now, there needs to be a mutuality to that. And what I mean by that is, look, the people of this city have made a decision. That decision was exceedingly clear. Now, the needless attacks that we've seen, they should stop, and the desire to work together should commence.
On your final term, where do you think that now that you don't really have to do any politics or anything, maybe you think it will be different for you? You're just free to manage this week.
That's right, I think so. Yeah, so the question was, now that I don't need to do any politicking, or, oh yeah, you're suggesting for another term.
Yes.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Look, we are going to be doing everything possible to run this city with efficiency, to bring it back in full. Again, we're seeing a great Minneapolis comeback right now. We want to expedite it as quickly as possible. And I mean, again, the argument that we're doing something for political reasons doesn't hold as strong when I've made very clear I'm not running for another term.
Are there specific things you want to do with council members to try to rebuild these relationships? Because it is, I mean, it's been really toxic with some of these incumbents who got reelected. outcome? Like,
I will, of course, I will. Here's the thing. I own what I say. I take responsibility for what I say. I can't control what other people on the city council say or do. There needs to be a mutuality. We need to hold each other to a common thread of decency. We need to hold each other to a common thread of civility. I would sign my name on the dotted line a year and a half ago to say, let's do it. I would sign it tomorrow as well. And so I'm ready to do that. We need council members that are willing to do that as well. I'm optimistic, by the way, that we are moving in that direction. This election sent a message, and I think that message is very clear. The voters have decided, and we need to move forward.
That was Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. Just shortly, not too long ago, he won a third term as a Minneapolis mayor. Just got announced this morning.
Yeah, and I couldn't necessarily hear what the journalist in the crowd said, but I would assume he asked him if there was any other office that he was interested in running for. He cracked the joke that he wanted to be the Prime Minister of France and made it very clear that he's not running for another term after this. So it's the last of Jacob Frey is a last hurrah, if you will, but his third term in the city of Minneapolis, regardless of how anybody feels, that's pretty impressive.
If you had any sort of political office, both domestically or internationally, that you'd really want. So let's take the President of the United States out of the equation.
For sure.
So anything else, you could be mayor of any city, governor, not the or any other elected. You can't be the king of France. Obviously, you got to be born into that.
Yeah, that is true. I want to be like, what is it? What is it when you're like the kind of like the correspondent between someone else in another country again?
An ambassador, yes.
An ambassador.
Yes,
I'd like to be the ambassador to Japan.
That
would be pretty cool. Be like, I got to go do some work again. I got to go do ambassadorial stuff. So
That's right.
It looks like another trip to Tokyo. I mean, what can I do? It's my job, man. So that would be pretty cool. I'd want one of those jobs, or just anything involving connecting with other countries and building those bridges between America and other countries. I wouldn't want any of the serious stuff where people are kind of, picking apart every single decision that you make. You're on camera 24/7. You're looking stressed. You got the bags under your eyes and all that, the gray hairs. I can't have a gray fro. You know, I mean, I can, but I don't want to have a gray fro yet. So I'd want to be one of those international positions. What about you?
I think I'm not just saying that. I think being the mayor of Minneapolis would be kind of a cool job, if I'm being honest. I don't know. Let's take domestically aside. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know. This one's kind of a tough one.
Yeah.
Maybe the Prime Minister of the UK. That is an elected title.
Yeah.
That would be pretty neat. So
why not?
Yeah. They have a lot of power. So
Mr. Millgates, you got an answer for this? Anything in Australia?
To your point though, Max, I just feel like it sounds like a bit of a nightmare being in any political office. I just don't think it's don't think it's for me, if I'm completely honest.
It's a tough job. Paul just wants to be the executive producer of the afternoon
I'm happy
shift.
as the executive producer of the afternoon shift.
Is that an elected position?
I don't know. I hope not.
I'm looking at the ballot.
You're looking at the ballot.
We'll see, huh?
There's right choice
Come
voting.
back November 4th next year.
The votes are still coming in.
We'll look forward to some campaigns here. Listen. Being the co-host of the afternoon shift could be an elected position too.
Sure,
so.
Why not? If it was, the viewers probably would have elected me out. They would have ousted me a long time ago.
I think you're beating me. No, you definitely are.
I don't think so.
I think you are.
I don't.
I think you
so.
are. I think you are. Okay. We, somebody that would beat both of us probably is Kaohly Her.
For sure, absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, he should run for office.
He probably could run for office one day. Kaohly Her is one of the anchors of the Fox 9 Morning News, a lifelong resident of St. Paul, Minnesota as well. He has a lot of great perspective on the mayoral race from St. Paul, which was called last night. Kaohly Her wins, the first Hmong-American to be mayor, the first female mayor of St. Paul.
Deal.
Yes.
Huge deal. From the outside looking in, a pretty big upset.
Yes, definitely a big upset. And Kaohly Her has all the insights. He'll be coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Maxx, yesterday, our colleague Maury Glover had the get of the show where he was able to interview incumbent Mayor Melvin Carter live. And then about 6 hours after that interview, it was the kind of the end of Melvin Carter there.
Yeah, there was a huge upset in St. Paul. I don't think anybody saw it coming, Adam.
Yeah, I know. I don't think anybody saw it coming. There's a lot of residents of St. Paul that we've talked to here in the office that were kind of noticing, maybe, there were some signs out there.
Right.
We do have a resident of St. Paul that's in studio with us. You probably know him from the Fox 9 Morning News. This is anchor and reporter Kaohly Her. No relation to the incumbent mayor.
Yeah, no relation.
Kaohly Her. Yes.
Yeah, but in our culture, everyone's an auntie or a sister or an uncle. So, but as far as I know, no relation. So
perfect. Kaohly, we're happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Hey, you're a native of St. Paul.
Yeah.
You're a resident of St. Paul. Can you tell us what happened in this race? Because Kaohly Her, she just got in it less than 100 days ago.
Yeah.
She got outspent by over 5 times by the incumbent mayor.
Yeah.
And yet she was able to pull out this win last night. What do you think happened?
Yeah, I mean, purely from just being a St. Paul resident. Again, this is no expert analysis or anything like that, but just from kind of keeping my eyes peeled on discourse over the last 24, 48 hours. I think people who live in St. Paul kind of just visually have noticed, not seeing, we're seeing a lot of more like her signs around the city. And I know just from keeping tabs on the different campaigns, I mean, she was out there, kind of just classic old school boots on the ground type work and campaigning. And so, you got to imagine that's going to, pay off. Right. And so, I think it's impressive that she jumped in the race late and pulled out a win. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's no relation, but you do know Mayor-elect Her. What kind of person is the new mayor of St. Paul?
Yeah, I mean, through the years, being from here, being a native, through the years, I've done just volunteer work and gone to events and stuff, especially things that are in the Hmong community. And so, we've been at events together. We've worked together through those sorts of community things. And so, yeah, I mean, I think in like the most complimenting way possible, she's very normal. She's just very normal, just approachable. And, hearing her victory speech last night talking about her family, her parents, and their journey to America and sacrificing a lot for her and her family. I think those are things that as a Hmong person myself, you kind of see that those are like the relatable things, right? And so, it'll be interesting to see how she does and how she proceeds in this very historic role for her and the city.
No doubt. You're talking about history. The first Asian American to be elected mayor of St. Paul, man or woman. Mm-hmm. The first Hmong mayor of St. Paul. Can you just talk about the Hmong's communities, sort of their history in St. Paul?
Yeah.
Why this is such a big deal for the Hmong community living there?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it from a state level, there are more elected Hmong electeds in this state than any other state in the country, and so to see someone like Kaohly Her get the top office in the capital city where a lot of Hmong people live, I think it's it just really kind of paints a picture of what the city has kind of become. This is a big year for the Hmong community. This year marks 50 years since the first Hmong refugee came to Minnesota, came to the United States, period. And so to see this moment this year, it's pretty significant. And I say that not in a political way by any means, but just as a community, milestone. It couldn't have happened during a bigger year.
I mean, she's the first Hmong mayor elect in St. Paul. You're dressed like you're ready to be the second, dog. When are we going to see your name on the ballot? You got that suit on. You're looking like you're ready to run for office, dog.
No, I couldn't commit like that. There's too much. I respect what they do. I mean, they spend a lot of time campaigning, and they're always out doing community stuff. And so I couldn't respect to them, but I'll leave that to them. Yeah,
we'll see what the future holds. Speaking of campaigning, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but what do you think it was about Kaohly's campaign that connected with the people of St. Paul? Because like we were talking about earlier, from the outside looking in, people of St. Paul weren't necessarily surprised, but from the outside looking in, this was a huge upset.
Yeah, I mean, and it's all documented. You look through her social media pages, you look through the things that they post and that they share. I've covered politics kind of all over the country in my career over the past 13 years. You start to kind of notice, right, that she's with different communities around the city while campaigning. Not just communities that look like her, not just communities in the same socioeconomic class, but people from all different corners of the city. And I think those are the kind of the classic boots on the ground, face-to-face interaction, especially on a local election like this, that is going to go a long way and pay off.
Yeah. The mayor of St. Paul, it's such a peculiar position because you're literally right on the doorstep of where the governor sits.
Yes.
What do you think that relationship is like, being the mayor of St. Paul and having Governor Walz kind of looming over your shoulder all the time? I mean, it's got to be an interesting sort of dynamic there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good way to put it, right? Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic, and when you look at just the way that I think the way that those relationships work, I couldn't even begin to understand or guess like how that would work. But yeah, you're in a position, especially in the capital city, where like a lot of eyes are going to be on you. It doesn't matter if it's Mayor-elect Kaohly Her or Melvin Carter or former Mayor Norm Coleman. It doesn't matter. You're leading the capital city, so there's going to be some eyes on you. It was kind of funny to see, and also like encouraging to see, just after Kaohly Her made her victory speech and Mayor Carter gave his concession speech, just kind of seeing their interaction and their support for each other still. It's encouraging to see, and hopefully that we'll see where that leads the city.
Yeah.
Speaking of leading the city, I've been trying to tell Adam, because Adam's been super slanderous towards St. Paul. The other day he said that it shouldn't even be the Twin Cities. He said Minneapolis is carrying all the weight on its back. He said St. Paul is done. It's a ghost town. Do you think there's a lot of pressure? And Adam's not the only one saying that. I'll defend my co-host. He's not the only one saying that. I'm not saying it, of course.
Aren't you a Cali boy? You're a Cali boy.
Listen, I'm a St. Paulite. I like. There's restaurants there I really like.
Okay, that's a good start. I was gonna say
shout out to Cretan Durham Hall.
Yes. I was gonna say you keep St. Paul out your mouth.
Yes.
Do you think there's pressure on the mayor-elect Her to kind of like revitalize St. Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you've followed the discussions during the campaigning phase of this election, I think that is one of the big talking points, right? Like people want to see how downtown is revitalized, bring some life back there. There are so many empty office buildings there, and the light rail goes through there too. And so, people want to know how the leaders can revitalize downtown, also address the public safety there, and bring some life back, because downtown St. Paul is beautiful, man. It's like right by the river. Again, it's like the light rail goes through there, so it's accessible. CHS Field is right there. Like there's a lot, and so I think there is some pressure to see how things change. Yeah, downtown.
How do you like living in St. Paul? I know you're a lifelong resident.
Yeah.
How do you like? You're proud. You're a proud St. Paul. Yeah.
Yeah. I moved back last year after kind of living all over the country, and I'm from the East Side, so East Side pride. So when I moved back, I wanted to live in St. Paul, so I kind of limited my home search to mostly just St. Paul or very close. But yeah, I live in St. Paul now. My whole family still does. And so I'm very much St. Paul to the core, through and through.
I love that.
That seems to be a trend for people in St. Paul. Though. They come back to it.
Yeah, we're like the boring brother of the Twin Cities, but we like it that way, you know? Yeah.
I like the boring brother of the Twin Cities a lot. The restaurant, the culture scene, everything. I like St. Paul a lot.
Yeah, like Chanu said, just keep it out your mouth. You've been talking so much smack about it.
No, put some respect on the name.
It was all me.
It's if you know, you know. You got to just come out and explore the city and. St. Paul is there's a charm to it. You know, there's definitely a charm to it, and it's when I moved back last year, it was like a no-brainer. I wanted to live in St. Paul. I love all of the Twin Cities, but St. Paul that's home. So yeah.
There's a certain charm to you, too. Where can people see your smiling face every single day?
The Fox 9 Morning News from 4:30 to 6. I'm on the desk with Hannah Flood. And then from 6 till 9, I'm still in the shows, doing live center updates, following breaking news. But, yeah, we're on all morning, so tune in. And, yeah, join us. It's fun.
What time you wake up at?
I wake up at 1:30.
Damn.
You want that life?
Hey, listen. I did morning radio. I still do morning radio. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. I'm 5 to 5, baby.
Woo.
So listen, I know that grind. I worked midnights. I used to work midnights, being janitor at the Llorens Center overnight, dog, picking up nachos with my hands. I worked that life.
But when it's Wolves playoffs, it doesn't matter how late the game goes. We're there. I saw you there.
Right.
Remember? We ran into each other.
We
I was super hyped. It was
dog.
the OKC game. I was super hyped. I hear someone screaming. I turn around and it was Maxx, of course.
We're chest bumping. We probably haven't even had like 3 conversations at that point. But Chanu was my best friend that night, just like everybody else in the
huge
Target
win.
Center.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, when the Lakers are in town, you're giving me chest.
All right.
Go to commercial.
You know what? Pack up.
Segment's done.
That was great. Chanu, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We got to bring you back. This is great.
Sure. Let me know anytime. Yeah, I'll pull up anytime.
Cool.
Let me know.
Right on. More to come from the afternoon shift after this. Welcome back to the afternoon shift, Maxx. If you missed it yesterday with all of our wall-to-wall election coverage, the Minnesota Twins, they have a new manager.
Yay!
His press conference was yesterday.
I know the fan base is just lit up We're on fire. We're over the moon with former Pirates manager Derek Shelton.
Also former Twins bench coach.
Yeah, he does have a history here. He was one of Rocco's former bench coaches.
Yes,
kind of the student usurping the master
right
here. But yeah, I mean they introduced him via the media yesterday. And listen, he's in an unfavorable position, an undesirable position. But he chose it. He said top pitching, a top level farm system are some of the many reasons that he wanted to come here. Obviously, the question was naturally asked about the Pohlads, their kind of spending habits or lack thereof. And he said he appreciated the transparency from the Pohlads and what spending is going to look like. And he said he liked all of the answers, which I'm sure the answers included the Pohlads pointing at his own paycheck and him going, yes, I like that answer, because I can't imagine that the Pohlads all of a sudden had this crazy change of heart and are going to decide to spend like crazy this offseason. But I wish and hope to be corrected on that point there. But in general, he kind of said all the right things, but the fan base is not exactly, obviously, if you couldn't pick up on the sarcasm at the beginning of the segment, the fan base is not super happy. It's not super motivated. This isn't something that's going to make splashes, going to make waves. It just is what it is. The Twins are kind of in that era of their franchise right now. That is what it is era. You're not hiring a guy necessarily to turn this whole ship around, because it's not going to turn around anytime soon. And Derek Shelton said he doesn't want to call it a rebuild. I will. That's generous. The ceiling is a rebuild. This whole thing is, I don't know what else you would call it. If I take the stairs and the windows and the carpets and the shelves and the fridge and the washing machine and the dryer out of my house, I think I'm rebuilding.
Yes.
I think I'm redecorating at the very least. And that's basically what the Twins did. They gutted their organization. They had a fire sale at the trade deadline, unlike any we've ever seen in this organization. And I think they made the most trades at the deadline maybe ever in the history of Major League Baseball. So obviously, I would think naturally that is the definition in a textbook. If you went to Webster and you looked up the word rebuild, you would see the 2025, or I should say 2026 Minnesota Twins in under that definition of rebuild. So he might not want to use the word, but I know the fan base has adjusted their expectations accordingly. We're not expecting anything out of this Minnesota Twins team. So I guess Derek Shelton has that working for him, is that nobody's expecting anything at all. If they win, if they go on a 3-game win streak, we're going to go, wow, great. Derek Shelton guy. He's, I don't know why he got fired in Pittsburgh. And then they'll go on a 2-week, 3-week losing streak. And then we'll go, oh, that's why.
You're right.
I mean, it's just kind of uninspiring. This is a guy that helmed a Pirates team that has constantly underwhelmed the people of Pittsburgh for the better half of, the Pirates have been pretty bad for a while
5 seasons. The manager there never finished above 500 during his tenure in Pittsburgh, and he was fired this season after 38 games. He was 12-26, and then that's when they cut it off in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
When fan expectation and excitement is at an all-time low, this is the hire that you make to reinvigorate the fan base. The guy who helmed a team that was maybe one of the most disappointing teams in Major League Baseball this season. I think a lot of people thought the Pirates, this could be a breakout year for them. Not quite the case. Not quite the case for Derek Shelton, who found himself on the couch not even halfway through the season. But now he finds himself on the bench here in Minneapolis, and good luck to him.
Yeah, at least he's got my guy James Outman at his disposal.
He's got James Outman. He's got Royce Lewis.
Yeah.
He got a lot of promising young guys for sure. But this is a rebuild. I don't care what anyone says. This is an absolute rebuild, and Derek Shelton has his work cut out for him from multiple perspectives and multiple angles. So. Best of luck to you, brother.
And now you're already seeing, speaking of spending, you're already seeing reports that the Dodgers are the favorites to land Bo Bichette now. And it's
really?
So
you can't beat them, join them.
Well, at least it makes the American League easier. So there's that. There is that.
Right.
Yes.
You guys play the game the right way.
Yes.
It's not illegal. Anything you guys are doing is not against the rules. You are allowed. Pohlads, I'm talking to you. You are allowed to spend as much money as you want. Go for it. Yes. The world is yours. You can do that.
in a very gettable division too. On top of all of that, like it's not a
winnable division.
There's no stalwarts in here. It doesn't even Scooble might be on the Dodgers next year too.
Exactly.
So it's like,
apparently they're what? They said they're like $250 million off, $200 million off on their offer compared to what Scooble was expecting. So and listen, I know Burke's not going to be happy to hear about this. Our good friend Burke here at Fox 9 is not going to be happy to hear about this. But I think, and I've been saying this for a while now, the Tigers are kind of poised to take a step back. Yeah. The Guardians are the Guardians. The Royals are the Royals. White Sox, do we even need to mention the White Sox? This is a super winnable division, even for a rebuilding team. So listen, it's not an impossible task, but an improbable one nonetheless.
Absolutely. Max, let's change topics here. I'm going to change with this segue. One of my favorite rap songs, "Rapper's Delight" by the Sugar Hill Gang. Yeah. I got a color TV so I can see the Knicks playing basketball.
Yeah,
and they're going to be playing the Timberwolves tonight.
They're going to be playing the Timberwolves tonight, live and in color, folks, at Madison Square Garden. The probable return of Anthony Edwards. Yes. The Minnesota Timberwolves released the injury report earlier. They said questionable, and obviously Ant has missed about a week and a half with some hamstring issues. This was kind of on the generous side of the recovery timetable. Yep. I know some people said 2 weeks, but the Wolves have kind of maintained that 10-day, week and a half window, and it looks like they were true to their word. Anthony Edwards is now probable. I think he's been upgraded from questionable to probable to return tonight, and what a better team to return against than the New York Knicks, facing our former longtime Minnesota Timberwolf, Karl Anthony Towns, Cat, as we lovably call him. But he's questionable to play, I believe, with an illness. But he's been absolutely balling in New York. I know some of the New York fans are just they're emotional. They're an emotional bunch. You have a rough couple stretches of games. They're trying to ship you out of town, and they'll drive you straight to the airport. You know what is the airport out there? JFK,
LaGuardia, Kennedy, EWR.
Right. They'll drive you. They'll drive you right. They'll call you an Uber right to the airport. Yes. But Cat, so they're a mercurial bunch for sure. But Cat has been balling out over the last couple of weeks, so hopefully we get to see him and get to see him reunite with the Minnesota Timberwolves. You know, we wish him the best all the other 80 games of the year, except for the 2 games they play against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So it should be fun. I mean, the Timberwolves are, like you said yesterday, they're on their first win streak of the season, 2-game win streak. And with Anthony Edwards back, it's time to start racking those wins up. You know, it's never too early. It's not too early to panic. I mean, it is too early to panic, I should say, but it's never too early to start racking up those wins and building your way up into a super competitive, even more competitive than predicted Western Conference. That's got teams like the Spurs that only have 1 loss.
Yep.
The Oklahoma City Thunder, 8-0 on an 8-game winning streak. The Lakers are on a 4-game winning streak with no LeBron James. Yep. The Rockets are on a 4-game winning streak. So listen, it's a tough division. And some teams, like I mentioned, like the Spurs that we thought are kind of maybe on the precipice, not quite ready yet. They look like they're ready. Yep. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. So the Timberwolves got to start racking these wins up right now. And this is a winnable game. The New York Knicks are a formidable bunch, no doubt about it. In an injured and weakened Eastern Conference, I think a lot of people are looking at them as the favorites to come out of the East this year with no Tyrese Halliburton and whatnot. And the Boston Celtics obviously down a couple guys as well. No Jason Tatum. So I think a lot of people are looking at the Knicks, but hey, they're only 4-3 right now. They're kind of middling right now, so might as well strike while the iron's hot. Anthony Edwards is back. You're on a 2-game win streak. Go get that win, baby.
And in those 2 wins, the Timberwolves have been scoring a ton of points. 122 at Charlotte and then 125 at Brooklyn. So that's they're putting up the points even without Anthony Edwards. So it should be good to get him back tonight.
Julius Randle has just been, I mean, there is no heat check for Julius Randle over the last couple of weeks. He's been incredible. He messed around and had his first triple-double as a Minnesota Timberwolf and capped that off by being on Jimmy Fallon last night. He was on the Tonight Show last night. I believe your guys, the Los Angeles Dodgers, were on some late.
They were on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Late-night TV runs. That Kike story was incredible. How he thought that when he got ran over, he thought that the game was over.
Did you
hear that?
With Andy Pajas.
Yeah. He thought that the game was over. That was incredible. But yeah, Julius Randle was on with Jimmy Fallon. He gave him a Jimmy Fallon Minnesota Timberwolves tree jersey, the old
that's cool
tree line jersey. Jimmy Fallon got one of those. So it's always good to see our guys get some national spotlight. And Julius Randle obviously has the connections in New York, former New York Knicks player. It's not just Karl Anthony Towns facing his former team. It's Julius Randle facing his former team as well. So it should be box office tonight in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, lots of ties between the Knicks and the Timberwolves. Dante DiVincenzo, obviously, too. And,
for sure.
I know the Knicks, they fired. What was the coach's name? They got rid of
Thibodeau.
Tom
Thibodeau, former Timberwolves coach, now former New York Knicks coach.
Right.
As well. But yeah, tons of different connections between New York and Minnesota. And the Timberwolves, that's not the only news that they're making today. Their name was kind of floated around in some big trade rumors
I heard
earlier
about this
today as well.
What's this all about?
disgruntled and controversial point guard, Grizzlies point guard Ja Morant, who is mostly over the last couple of years has been in the news for all the wrong reasons, in the headlines for all the wrong reasons, outside of his play, which he's a top 10 point guard in the National Basketball Association when he's healthy and when he's on. But it's been a struggle for him in Memphis. He's disgruntled. And listen, it's only, 2-3 weeks into the season, even a month, maybe not even into the season. And he's talking to the media about the coaches. He's getting suspended, not by the league, but by the team itself, just because of the stuff he's saying to the media about the coaches. He looks like he's not having a good time. A matter of fact, he said so himself. They said, Ja, is your joy for playing gone? And he said, yeah.
Yes.
My joy for playing is gone. And there's some in-the-know NBA beat reporters around there that said there are some teams sniffing around, monitoring this Ja Morant situation, and one of those teams is the Minnesota Timberwolves.
He would be amazing.
That would be incredible. Yes. Obviously, if you're watching these Timberwolves games night in and night out, you know that one of the biggest gaps in this Timberwolves, between the Timberwolves and the upper echelon, the Oklahoma City Thunders of the world, it's that point guard position. We love Minnesota. Mike Dante DiVincenzo is doing what he can in that starting role, but that's not his natural role. If you could have a guy like Ja Morant, a former MVP-like candidate, a guy who has absolutely raised the ceiling and the floor of the entire Memphis Grizzlies organization when he's staying out of trouble, that would be an incredible get. I don't know how they would get it, because I'm sure lots of teams with lots of different pieces and assets and picks are going to be interested in Ja Morant. But listen, if the Timberwolves could make that happen, if Tim Connolly can work his magic once again, that might be the difference between them and a chip.
You got to stay tuned for that Ja Morant news. That would really be big.
Incredible. I've been asking for that for years. Listen, I don't know if Anthony Edwards and Ja Morant I don't know if they should be hanging out. They might be the last two dudes that need to be hanging out, but I think Minneapolis, it could heal Ja Morant. Maybe he'll turn the other cheek, learn to calm down, chill out a little bit. The winter will keep him inside. He can chill out a little bit, figuratively and literally, and help bring the Minnesota Timberwolves their first championship. But we'll see. We'll see. But it does look like his days are numbered in Memphis.
You could be friends with him. You got a lot of Memphis ties. You can talk some Memphis barbecue with
Memphis,
him.
Absolutely.
Yes,
my people can understand him. Me, you, and Grace, we're Tennessee people. We understand that Tennessee accent. It can be hard.
That's
for these Midwesterner people, these Minnesotans. So maybe me, you, and Grace can be his welcome party when Ja Morant comes to Minnesota.
That'd be great. Maybe you can get him here in the Studio 9. That'd be an amazing interview.
I would love that.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Yes.
That would be absolutely incredible. I'm sure he has better things to do, but that would be awesome.
Maybe so. Maybe we could speak into existence. That would be great. We are going to go to break here. We're going to come back. There's been a lot of problems with the airspace with this government shutdown. We're in day 36. It's the longest government shutdown in the United States history.
Wow.
Heather McNevin, we had her on. She's a former air traffic controller, professor of aviation at Minnesota State. She's going to be joining us to talk about they might be shutting down the airspace. This is in the news.
What does that even mean? And what kind of ripple effects does that have for the millions of people around the United States? You've got vacations coming up. It's almost Thanksgiving time, and they're shutting down airspace. I mean, this could be a huge problem for lots of people around the country, and we'll be breaking it down, all of that and more on the afternoon shift coming up right after this.
back to the afternoon shift up. Maxx, the government shutdown moves into day 36. It's the longest in U.S. history.
This is incredible. I remember when we were talking about it at the beginning, it kind of all the prognostications were it's not going to, it shouldn't last this long.
Right.
I don't think most of these things wrap up within a couple of weeks or so, but now we're in record-setting territory, and it is not a good thing for the air traffic controllers around the country.
That's right. That's right. Both them and TSA agents, they're working without pay. And now there's news that the Department of Transportation could be forced to shut down the airspace in certain parts of the country.
I didn't even know that was possible.
I didn't either. One person that probably knows a little bit more about this is Heather McNevin. She's a former air traffic controller and a professor of aviation at Minnesota State. Heather, welcome to the afternoon shift. How are you?
Happy to be back. I just wish it was under better circumstances.
I know. We got to get you back under better circumstances. Can you tell us what is this all about? Can the government shut down airspace? That's possible?
Yeah, so it's a little bit misleading. It's something that actually happens all the time. So we talked before, air traffic control is a balance between volume and complexity. So if I have a lot of airplanes, they have to be kind of in a straight line, and they shouldn't be doing like very complex things, lots of altitude changes and turns. Maybe I can have 30 airplanes in a line. But if I have airplanes that are going in all different directions and there's a lot more complexity to the operation, I can handle less volume. So if we look at things like the East Coast, they have a lot of volume. There's a lot of airplanes coming from overseas, from all along the East Coast, from the rest of the country, so they can't handle a lot of complexity. For that reason, we start sequencing for JFK, Newark, LaGuardia, and Teterboro over North and South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, that area. So we start getting them in line to land half a country away to balance volume and complexity. Now, these are tools that we use all the time, and traffic management is a whole group of controllers that look to balance and make sure that the NAS is running as efficiently as possible. Sometimes, due to risks or mitigation, to mitigate the risks, they have to mitigate by reducing volume at an airport. That could be due to weather, or it could be due to some other factors, construction. So we can reduce volume, we can close airspace if needed, and it's something that it's done all the time. It's just now you as the general public are being a lot more aware of it. And my guess is, since it was mentioned by the Secretary of Transportation, that is probably going to be a lot more widespread than what we're generally used to seeing. But it is a normal traffic flow program or traffic flow mitigation.
I believe I read Duffy saying earlier that the FAA warned that there could be a lot more people forced to call out of work, not be in work, because a lot of these guys are on their second missed paycheck now, and it's just not safe, and they're going to have to start shutting down more of these airspaces. What do you think is kind of like the ripple effect of this across the country? Because we've already been seeing mass delays in airports all around the United States.
Yeah, we normally see some issues because we're at a 30-year staffing low. So the time to hire controllers was a couple decades ago, and to be very diligent with it since then, that didn't happen. So we're already tight on staffing. So when you add in these extra stressors like a shutdown, that causes all these additional problems, and all of a sudden we don't have enough bodies to safely run the airspace. When we can't do that, we can't just let everybody go. It just doesn't work that way. There's too much risk in the system. So that's where we have to say, okay, this isn't going to work. We have to shut this airspace down, whether this airspace be a certain airport, or it might be a certain region in the sky based on, it might be an en route facility. But I watch the traffic flow programs every day, and I've never seen as many staffing triggers as I saw a couple days ago. In 18 years of controlling. So it's definitely potentially very interesting. And like I said last time, people, if they're stressed, you don't want them working traffic. So they're going to call in sick, because if they're stressed, their mind isn't in it, and it's a inherently risky operation. And there are hundreds of people on board each aircraft. So if they don't feel like they can perform up to the job, they're going to call in sick.
Heather, I guess to that point, you have a lot of people, because so many people are calling in sick, they're doing 2 jobs at once right now. And that includes TSA agents. Just yesterday at LaGuardia Airport, there was a bomb scare on a Delta plane coming from LGA to MSP. Our own Fox 9 host Jason Matheson was on that plane. It proved to be okay, but how safe would you say our skies are and our airports are right now, given the fact that there are a lot of people that are doing 2 jobs really for one because there's so many absences?
Yeah, there's stress in the system. And just keeps adding more and more stress. And that's why you're going to see delays and closures and things like that, is to try and mitigate things so that they're to a manageable level. So if we're missing a bunch of controllers, well, then we're going to have to maybe reduce flow through that airspace or cause massive delays through that airspace to try and keep everything to a safe level that the controllers that are present can handle. So you're probably going to see a lot of delays. It's going to be a lot of stress on people. And you've got people that are working not just to cover for missing coworkers, but you have people that may be working a second job to try and make ends meet. I did see that in the last shutdown. People would drive Uber or do DoorDash or something after work and then get a few hours of sleep and come back. And that added a lot of stress, and it added some risk into the system.
Now I'm curious. I'm assuming that there's like unions and stuff like this that have discussions about this. But like, are air traffic controllers are they like able to strike if they wanted to? Is this a thing that could happen?
They are not able to strike as federal employees. It's against the law. In 1981, there was a professional air traffic controllers organization, the Air Traffic Control Union of the time, and they had very similar issues that we're facing today. They had staffing shortages, they had antiquated equipment, and they were saying they're working too many hours, they're not getting enough pay, this is problematic. They talked to President Reagan, he said he would work with them, and he didn't, so they went on strike. And President Reagan said, you have 48 hours to get back to work or you'll be fired. And about 11,000 controllers or so, more than the 11,000 were fired. And they were barred from federal service for life. And that was the majority of our air traffic controllers, which actually set up the cyclical staffing system that we're struggling with today because of all those massive firings. We had massive hirings, and then those people worked 20 years, and then we have another staffing low, and we just kind of have that cycle going year over year. But after PATCO was disbanded, NATCA, which is the current Air Traffic Controllers Union, was created, and now they trying to work collaboratively with the FAA and make sure that everything's safe and get things done. But unfortunately, air traffic controllers are not allowed to strike.
Heather, you were around during the last government shutdown. We've been talking about potential strikes and getting payments getting missed. Are these people, are they going to get paid? These CSA and air traffic control agents, they will get paid. They will be back paid for all their work, correct?
They should get their back pay. There was a issue with getting some people certain back pay, so you get paid extra for like working on Sunday, or if you're training somebody, you get training pay. It's called differential pay. And some of that didn't get worked out correctly, and some of the overtime that was during the last shutdown didn't get worked out correctly until actually about a couple months ago. So it was a very long lawsuit situation to try and correct the pay errors. For the bulk of the pay, it was correct, but there were some problems. So they should be getting all of the pay that they're due at some point in the future.
This might be a stupid question, Heather, but say it's around this time, next month, and we're still having these discussions about the government shutdown. Is there a chance that we just have, little to no flights?
You can only work for an IOU for so long, and people have families to feed, they have bills to pay, and after a while, it's not going to work anymore. People won't be able to show up for an IOU, so they'll call out sick. I've actually seen a lot of people saying that they're reconsidering this work and maybe leaving to do a different job. So we're going to have further attrition in a already short-staffed, critical staffing situation where it takes 2 to 5 years to train a new person to replace them. So this is making the system worse in the long run and the short term.
It's scary. And Max, I know you mentioned you got Thanksgiving just a couple weeks away. Right. Obviously, you mentioned doing this next month. You got the Christmas, the holiday season, everything. A lot of people traveling. Heather, what should people know if they're heading to the airport? Maybe for a weekend getaway this week or next week, or even looking ahead to Thanksgiving. What are some tips you'd give to travelers?
So Thanksgiving is actually like right around that time, right before Thanksgiving is one of our busiest times as air traffic controllers. There's a ton of flights. The actual holiday itself is usually pretty quiet. There's not a whole lot of flights going through. Flights are still going. And I would say to have a lot of patience because you may be getting delayed. There may be cancellations. The FAA doesn't cancel flights. They would just say there's, this much delay, and then the airline would choose, do we wait or do we cancel this flight? And there's also a website, it's I think it's nasstatus.gov, that you can go online and look at the delays for different airports and see, if there's like a 6-hour delay or something, you can see that in real time.
Well, we appreciate you for joining us today, Heather, and obviously we will hope that all those air traffic controllers out there the government can reopen and they can get the money that they have rightfully and dutifully earned, because they're doing all the important work out there, and we got to get those guys paid.
No doubt. Thank you, Heather. We appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it here.
Thanks so much. I mean, is this a job that you think if you were, going into college, you'd want to get into, given all this craziness and the pressure of the job too?
Yeah,
there's high stress.
It's a lot of pressure, and then obviously you have stuff like this that can happen pretty much at any given time. But I mean, it is a job that there's a ton of need for it, and it's not something that AI can ever take your job. So I think it's something that hopefully in the near future here has one of those kind of upsurges and people trying to join the profession, because we need people out there like this, and I would imagine that this is only going to deter people. She already mentioned it, that people that she knows that are in the industry right now are reconsidering their work. People that have already done the training, have already gone through that, been there, done that, they're reconsidering it. So I imagine it's impacting people's decision making as well. If you're a young guy or a young gal out there thinking about what you're going to do with the future.
No doubt, and there's just, like I said, just a ton of pressure in that job. You're a TSA agent. You have national security on the tips of your fingertips,
man.
And those agents are not. I know that's not a very high paying job.
For sure.
Air traffic controllers more high paying. But my gosh,
it's like a thankless job too. You're keeping the skies safe. You're doing one of the most important jobs out there, saving thousands, millions of lives every year, keeping people safe. And nobody ever really says shout out to the air traffic controllers.
No,
it's kind of pretty thankless work.
Yeah, if you're doing your job, nobody says anything to you.
Right,
it's
exactly.
Only when the job doesn't go right, that's where you get kind of pointed the finger at and get blamed.
Right.
So, yeah.
Maybe a silver lining of all this is we can appreciate our air traffic controllers a lot more right now, obviously, especially when they need it right now, and as the government hopefully reopens here in the near future.
No doubt. We'll have more on the ongoing government shutdown as it continues to progress right here in the afternoon shift. We're going to go to break. We're going to bring in Joe Augustine. You've seen him a couple times on our show. He's got a new documentary that's premiering tonight.
Another one.
Tonight.
My God.
He just cranks them out.
This guy's like Ken Burns or something. My goodness.
Yeah, this one's all about the Edmund Fitzgerald. There's this song. You and Grace.
The wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Gordon. No, I do not. I won't subject the people's ears to that. I don't want us to get DMCA. That's all, because my voice is just so elegant. It's so similar to Gordon Lightfoot's.
Yeah.
I don't want us to get DMCA'd or anything like that. So I'll spare the people, but we won't spare the people knowledge and education, which we're always dropping on people. And Joe Augustine has more on the Edmund Fitzgerald coming up next.
the lyrics enhance the legacy of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
There was always a respect for the Fitzgerald because of the attention given to the song.
The Wreck became a hit.
Made the Fitzgerald and the Wreck of the Fitzgerald such a worldwide fascination.
But like any discussion or debate about one of the most famous shipwrecks, not everything can be true.
Gordon Lightfoot had the song wrong. It's not some mill in Wisconsin. There are no pelletizing mills in Wisconsin. They were carrying 26,000 tons heading for Detroit.
Not Cleveland.
Not Cleveland. Another mistake.
There you just saw a clip from Gales of November, diving the Edmund Fitzgerald. It's debuting tonight on Fox 9 at 9:30, already on the Fox local app and YouTube right now. It's
Absolutely.
crazy.
I'm in the middle of bootlegging it right now so I can burn it on DVD, sell it for $1 on the street corner. But in the meantime...
Can you get the price up a little bit there? Like, you're going to start at $1.
Okay. I'll give you the shares. I'll bump it up. Let's do $1.
All right.
$1.
Joe Augustine's going to get some of the royalties from that. He's the executive producer of investigations and documentaries here at Fox 9.
Ken Burns.
For real,
Okay,
though.
I appreciate that, but easy.
How many documentaries is this for you during your tenure at Fox?
So this will be the 6th documentary that we've turned out. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to get going on this project. I had actually covered the 40th anniversary. So it's the 50th anniversary on Monday, November 10th.
That's right.
And I had actually covered the 40th anniversary when I was a reporter in the market. Went up to Duluth, and I didn't know anything about the shipwreck, to be honest. I didn't even know the song, really.
Yeah.
And really felt like I scratched the surface on it. And, heard this stuff about, there's this controversy about the hatches. I'm like, what are you talking about with the hatch? I just didn't know enough. And I kind of came back from that trip just saying, like, I'd love to learn more about this. But then, you get into your just regular reporting, and then moved into investigative report. Never really had time to look into it. And our managers had actually flagged that it was the 50th anniversary, or well earlier this year, and suggested, hey, this would be a good documentary idea. And so I was kind of went that flashback to 10 years ago. Yeah, actually, I want to know more about it myself. So that just kind of set me on the journey to try to start researching it and understanding it. And then really, you just kind of start by calling people who are in the know and ask a few questions. And then we kind of figured out our angle from there and got going with it.
Awesome. Speaking of figuring out that angle, like you said, it's the 50th anniversary. I was just reading today, over half a dozen books have been written about the Edmund Fitzgerald just this year.
Yep.
So how do you find a new angle to take on
it's tough,
this story?
Right? And that's why I didn't really want to replicate what people had already done, right? And there's also, this is a joint partnership with some of our sister stations in Detroit and Milwaukee. So they wanted to look in, like, our sister station in Milwaukee really focused on the last voyage, which goes into some of the detail of the weather conditions that day, more history of the ship. And so knowing that and kind of trying to carve out our niche with it, it kind of occurred to me one day. It's like, well, how many people have actually seen the ship in the last 50 years? And I picked up the phone and called one of the people who went on one of the dives. And then he revealed to me, and I didn't know this, that there's likely never going to be another dive.
Really?
Yeah, there hasn't been a dive in 30 years. There likely will not be another dive because there was some controversy with one of the dives in 1994. So during an independently funded expedition, they had actually recorded video of what they believe was to be one of the crew members who was lost. And the families were, I think, understandably outraged when that video, was distributed. And so they talked to the Canadian government because the ship sank in Canadian waters, so it's all up to the Canadian government to decide if somebody can go down and dive to the shipwreck. And they said, we don't want this anymore. And they lobbied the Canadian government to essentially make it a grave site. But they did allow for one more dive in 1995, and that was really to go down and actually remove the ship's bell and replace it with a memorial bell. But that was with the condition that if they happened to record video of any of the crew, they would destroy the footage. So that's why we are unlikely, at least in our lifetimes, to see another dive, a permitted dive anyway. With the advancements in technology, there's always the risk that somebody could just send a drone down there or something, but we hope that people are respectful of the family's wishes and the government's restrictions on it.
Why was the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald, why was it such a big deal to the point now, 50 years later, we're making documentaries on it?
That's a good question. I asked everybody I interviewed
version of that question. I think there's a couple things. One is you have to remember just how significant the shipping industry was in that time. It was a huge source of employment and jobs. It was, as our sister station in Milwaukee points out, it's kind of the backbone of the Midwest economy with all of the shipping. The reason that, like in Minnesota, we care is because the Edmund Fitzgerald ran a pretty standard route, but from Silver Bay in Minnesota, getting the taconite from our iron ore up on the Iron Range and taking it across Lake Superior to Toledo, Ohio. That was the route. So they called it the Toledo Express. So that right there is kind of an indicator of like how significant this was in the economy. So people were aware of it. I think also just you look at the sheer size of the ship. It was 729 feet long. Like it was the biggest ship ever launched onto the Great Lakes when it was launched in 1958. So it became known as the Queen of the Great Lakes. So it's, as far as the shipping industry goes, it's kind of like the Titanic.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it was like this queen ship of it. And then, it sinks in severe weather. And then there's no Mayday. So there's no survivors. So there's a lot of mystery around it. So when you ask, like, why does it, endure 50 years later? I think it's the mystery of we don't really know what caused it to sink, what caused it to go to the bottom. And there's a lot of competing and conflicting theories on this. And for me, like storytelling-wise, I think what makes a good story is conflict, right? And there's a lot of conflict here. There's conflicting theories on how the ship went down. There's conflicting thoughts on whether we should go back down to try to study this. So there's just a lot of inherent conflict over trying to understand this. And I think that's why it's endorsed. And then you can't minimize the role of Gordon Lightfoot's song. I mean, it's...
Right. That led me perfectly into my next question. I was going to ask, like, obviously, I'm assuming you guys covered the song at some point. And what is kind of most people's point of reference for the Edmund Fitzgerald is Gordon Lightfoot's song. What can you even, like, calculate what the impact of that song was for this whole, like, bringing awareness to the Edmund Fitzgerald?
Just through the experts that I've talked to, one of my favorite lines from it was an interview where somebody says, the wreck became a hit. So the ship sinks in November 1975. The song is released in, I think, August of 76. And as it approached the year anniversary, it just skyrockets to like number 2 on the Billboard charts. Really? So it became an instant. And then you think about, okay, why do we watch movies every year, right? Why do you just coming off Halloween, right? And you're going to watch your same old movies every year, even though they're 50 years old. Same thing here. Every November, that song's going to get played on repeat, right? So I think that absolutely plays a role. What I did find interesting, though, is, some of the creative license with maybe some of the facts, some of the things that Gordon Lightfoot got wrong, that it wasn't, the taconite mill wasn't in Wisconsin. It was in Minnesota. The ship wasn't heading towards Cleveland. It was headed for Detroit on that route. So just some of those things I found kind of interesting as well.
Do we know why, like, Gordon Lightfoot why was he so fascinated by it, or just kind of the general fascination that the rest of the public had?
I think there's general, but he was a Canadian songwriter, and so I think there is part of that too. I haven't researched enough into, like, some of his previous interviews to see kind of why he invested in it. I just kind of talked to people about how big of a hit it became, and absolutely how much of a role it plays in kind of keeping the legacy of the Edmund Fitzgerald alive today.
What went into the making of this documentary? When did you start? How many people did you talk to?
Yeah, so when I kind of came up with when you asked earlier, kind of circle back on something I don't think I maybe answered fully, but I really wanted to focus on the people who have dove down, and then I had to line people up, but we had to travel to Michigan to do so, and it was trying to get everybody kind of lined up. So we did a 24-hour road trip in early September into Michigan to talk to 3 people who had gone on those expeditions, and then we were very fortunate. They trusted us and they gave us the raw footage of all their dives. So you see some really rare footage from inside the submarines as they kind of detail the difficulty of diving to the shipwreck, because that's something that is really, truly fascinating, is that the Edmund Fitzgerald is 535 feet below the surface of Lake Superior. So as one historian said, his camera would have imploded at 300 feet, right? Yeah. But it's also because it's so deep, it's why they believe the Edmund Fitzgerald is likely very well preserved even today. So we mentioned the Titanic earlier. The Titanic in 100 years is probably going to be dust, right, because of the constant corrosion of the salt water. But not the Edmund Fitzgerald. It's fresh water. It's deep enough not to be impacted by ice. It's deep enough not to be impacted by sea life. So it is largely intact and very well preserved by the very water, cold, fresh water that took it down.
The irony behind that is crazy.
That's incredibly fascinating. And then you just talking to all the different people that you talked to, you mentioned that there's competing theories. I guess like kind of what was like, was there a prevailing theory from that just kind of started to come up again and again out of the people that you talked to of why it crashed?
Yeah, I think everybody agrees that at least one large wave took the Fitzgerald down. Likely 2 or 3. Because they talk about how there's rogue waves on the Great Lakes. So in the oceans, you get kind of steady drumbeat of waves where you get gaps in between. But in the Great Lakes, you can get hit one after another. So there's a theory that there was what they call sister waves that may have taken it down. So everybody's in agreement on that part. Yeah. The interesting thing that I found, though, is that there's this competing theory on when the ship broke apart because it's actually in pieces on the floor of Lake Superior. And so there's many people who believe that it essentially, once that wave took it over, it nosedived into the bottom of Lake Superior. And you got to remember, 729-foot ship, 535 feet deep, there's a chance the propeller would have been sticking up in the air if that happened, if it had gone down that fast. So that's one theory, and that when it hit the bottom, when the bow hit the bottom, it broke into pieces. But there's another theory out there that there was maybe some structural problems. People believe that the ship was run very hard through a lot of severe weather and maybe wasn't in the best shape, had some issues with the hatches, was taking on water, and may have taken on so much weight that it broke apart on the surface. So there's some competing theories, which I found fascinating because you're trying to, well, which one do I believe? And you know, my opinion doesn't matter on it. I just try to accurately reflect it. But as you're doing this, you're trying to think, okay, well, that makes sense. But then you hear another argument say, okay, I can understand that position too. And I really found that interesting, trying to understand. And that's what people said. That's why it's so, as you said, the legacy endures, is there's still a debate over what happened out there. Yeah.
Were you able to talk to any family members of those that were on the Edmund Fitzgerald?
So because we did a kind of a joint collaboration project, I did not speak to families. We are going to be speaking to a family member, I believe, heading closer to the anniversary. But this project really, I wanted it to focus on the people who have gone down to the bottom of Lake Superior and to represent those voices in that perspective. There's been plenty of documentaries, books representing kind of where the family's role in this is. And we do represent what the family's thoughts are on the diving expeditions, but we wanted to really tell this through people who have actually gone down and seen the ship in the last 50 years.
I don't want you to like spoil the documentary or anything. That wouldn't be good for Fox 9 or me because I'm selling the bootleg in the corner again for $1.50. But what, like, when you were talking to them, what did they kind of explain? What was their first reaction when they first set eyes upon the Edmund Fitzgerald, and kind of what was that like?
There's one moment for all of them, and it's this. You know, they because they have to land kind of off the ship and then, you know, slowly use their sonar to get closer to it so they don't accidentally hit something. And the pilot house of the Edmund Fitzgerald is white, and the lettering, the Edmund Fitzgerald, is black. And when you're in, everything is complete darkness out there, so you just have this light from the submarine that goes, they said, about 20, 25 feet. Well, as that light would come closer to the ship, that white pilot house would be illuminated, and then you would see the lettering from the, I kind of just got chills just talking about it. Like, but that's what they all described, like that was the moment. Everybody did 3 separate interviews, completely independent of each other, and they all brought up that moment as like the moment that takes your breath away. So you just imagine being 530 feet below the surface. And then they also talked about not only that, but we can't forget that this is a gravesite, that 29 men lost their lives that day, and the power of that, recognizing that like they're still there. And that's why being respectful of this shipwreck and the gravesite that it is.
Oh, man. That's if you got goosebumps just hearing Joe, you got to watch the documentary tonight.
Absolutely.
The Gales of November, diving the Edmund Fitzgerald, debuting at 9:30 tonight on Fox 9. It's already out on Fox Local and YouTube. And if you go just see Max, you can get a copy for yourself.
I'll bootleg it. But
Hennepin Avenue, just out there.
Yeah, for sure. Hennepin Avenue. I'll be making the rounds.
Do you wear the trench coat? That's what I want to know.
I got the kimono.
Oh,
I
okay.
got the kimono, so I just flip open the flaps and just tape it right there. Just flap
All
it
right.
$1.50. That's all it costs.
We're going to play another clip from the documentary. Going to break here. Joe, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks. More to come from the afternoon shift after this.
That big wave could have
Hey, guys.
lifted the stern of the Fitzgerald and pushed the bow underwater.
And they think it's going to be like every other time they've been pushed in the water when the waves come over the deck. But this time, they didn't come back up.
It did not have the reserve buoyancy and the strength to handle the sea conditions out there.
The U.S. Coast Guard's final report in 1977 determined the Fitzgerald sank because of massive flooding due to ineffective hatch closures. But the report did not conclude how or when the ship broke apart, saying only the vessel dove into a wall of water and never recovered.
The Fitzgerald was basically sailing toward the bottom.
Did it go down nosedive as we've seen in so many paintings? Absolutely not.
My opinion, there's no question that it broke into when it hit the bottom.
I think that's what happened.
The ship did not nosedive. It broke on the surface and all that cargo came out.
The Fitzgerald broke in two, and it broke in two because of structural failure.
Well, that's wrong because it doesn't add up to the full length of the ship.
The ship did not go down in one piece.
My feeling is that that ship just kept going right to the bottom, that it was sudden and catastrophic.
The problem was the structural problems with the Fitzgerald, the leaking hatches and the leaking vents that caused all this extra weight.
I think that's a part of the fascination, that the fact that we've never really had a clear answer on why the Fitzgerald went down.
The clues are all still down there undisturbed.
Welcome back to the afternoon shift. We just talked to Joe Augustine. You got to go watch that Edmund Fitzgerald documentary tonight at 9:30. Yes.
Yeah, super excited for it. And if you just can't wait I believe it's already out on fox9.com.
That's right. That's right. You can go get it. And if you can't get it there, just go find Maxx.
I got you.
Right on Hennepin Avenue later
Hennepin
tonight.
Ave, Lake Street, Grandad. Listen, I'll make my way across the river.
Normandale.
Normandale.
Yes.
I'll go to Bloomington. Yeah, I'll be out in the suburbs. I'll go to Duluth if you want it.
Yes.
I'm traveling all around the great state of Minnesota, handing out bootlegs of the wonderful and ever busy Joe Augustine's latest documentary.
Would you say that those would be clones of the original documentary that you?
They would technically be considered clones. I would say. I like that transition.
Yeah, you're channeling your inner goat, your inner Tom Brady right there. What's the story? He's cloning his dog. What's his deal?
Kind of like just out of nowhere revealed yesterday that he cloned his former dog, his beloved dog Lua, who died back in 2023. Tom Brady, I believe he's got some type of shareholder investing stake or something along these. He's affiliated with Colossal Biosciences. This is the company that's behind. We talked about it very early on in the afternoon shift's tenure. The cloning of the dire wolves that made big news several months back earlier in the year that they're trying to bring back the extinct dire wolf. This is a company that's all about their cloning, and Tom Brady, he's all in on it. He's an investor with them, and he said they used a non-invasive method of taking a blood sample from his former dog, which I don't know. Did he just have that already ready to go from 2023? Why did it take multiple years? I don't fully understand how it works. But again, he just offered this information up. I don't know if anybody just was like, hey, Tom, by the way, did you clone your freaking dog?
Right.
He just like randomly had to share this with us. But yes, he cloned his pit bull mix using a blood sample collected prior to her death. And now he's got, I guess, Lua Part 2. His dog Junie is Lua Part 2. Now, obviously, there's moral questions here, ethical questions here, but just in general, also just my first question is, what the hell, Tom?
Yeah, That's
very strange. Like, it's not gonna. I think we've all had that reaction with the pet. Maybe not you. You're not a pet guy.
No.
But I think all of us out there who have had a pet friend, an animal friend, have had this reaction to their passing as being like, man, I wish. Or when you're thinking about your pet's mortality, man, I wish they could live forever. I wish I had multiple versions of my dog.
Yeah.
But I think faced with the reality of it, a lot of us would not choose that path.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I think it's just going to lead you down a path of disappointment. Junie's not Lua, Tom. Junie's not Lua. He might look like Lua. He might, bark like Lua. But eventually you're going to be like, oh, well, Lua used to do this, and Junie does it.
He's not going to do it.
My old dog used to get the ball like this and give me kisses like this, and you're not. I feel like it's only going to lead you down a path of disappointment. I don't know. How do you feel about this whole cloning thing? It's becoming more and more of a thing. Far gone are the days of Dolly the sheep. We're into the days of which I've met Dolly the sheep actually. Technically met Dolly the sheep.
What was that all about?
She's in Edinburgh.
Okay.
The Scotland Museum.
Oh,
she's just on display right there. You never think when you're in science class that someday you're going to meet Dolly herself. But I did get to see Dolly the sheep. But that's long in the past now. I'm not going to say regular people because Tom Brady's obviously not a regular person.
Sure.
But cloning is an accessible thing to the ultra rich here in America and maybe around the world. But and obviously it's going to just keep being a thing. I don't know how you feel about this whole cloning thing.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think I'm into the whole cloning thing. Just embrace somebody for their individual self and their original self.
I don't like it.
We don't need, copycats of every single thing.
There's plenty of dogs out there that need some rescuing.
That's
I don't
right.
think you need to clone your dogs or spend the resources, time, money, energy used to clone that dog. But I'm curious, like, how this whole kind of cloning thing works. Like, does the dog...
Right. Do they go through a machine?
Does it just have the same DNA? Does it look exactly the same? It obviously doesn't have the same memories and experiences, right? I mean, I don't know. Hopefully, maybe we can find someone to talk to about how this whole cloning thing works. And does it stop with dogs? If you can do it with the dog, it's a give a mouse a cookie situation, as it tends to be with technology. You start with cloning Dolly the sheep, just seeing if you can, and now people are cloning their pet dogs, and pretty soon, maybe not. Maybe sometimes in our lifetime, we'll hear about the first human that has been cloned. Or maybe it's already happened. I don't know.
It could
Actually,
be. Yes.
I have some insight. So in the state of Minnesota, there is a law or some legislation that is the Human Cloning Prohibition Act that was enacted in 2011. So I'm not exactly sure all the details of it, but apparently if you attempt to clone a human, it results in a misdemeanor. So that's just really interesting. So don't go trying to clone yourselves at home, guys.
Yeah.
Don't try this at home, folks. I don't know what kind of Dr. Frankenstein inspired this. Somebody. In order for this to be allowed, somebody had to have tried it, right? Somebody had tried to clone a human, right?
100%. I think my other thing with Tom Brady, like, why are you revealing? You don't have to say everything,
You didn't have
Tom.
to say that.
You didn't have to say it.
He cracked under zero pressure. He didn't
Right.
have to reveal that. You could have just went about your business with your dog, and now
Right.
we're all kind of questioning all of our moralities, our mortalities, and our ethics, because this is obviously clearly a dilemma and something that we're going to have to face moving forward in the future here in society. Is this idea of cloning? Is there anybody out there that you want to clone? Would you clone yourself?
No,
If you had
no,
the
no.
opportunity, if someone came to you and said,
We got enough Adams. There's enough Adam Lorenz. I don't think anybody wants more of me.
No more Adam Lorenz.
There's enough of me.
You wouldn't split half your time with your clone. Hey, I work with this wacky guy, Maxx. I'm so tired of him. I
Yeah.
just want to,
No.
Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, you got it.
Yeah.
That's all you, Adam too.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that? You wouldn't be interested in that?
I don't think so. No, because I like sitting next to you. I want to have all those experiences myself. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
I don't think definitely the world doesn't need any more Maxes. I think we're already at the max capacity. No pun intended. Maybe past max capacity. Maybe I should even just go. Maybe I should just disappear, because I think we're beyond the need for more Max Fullers. But I don't think I'm down with the whole dog cloning thing.
No.
As sad as it is to lose an animal friend, an animal family member, I don't think that's the way to go about it. I think there's countless pieces of fiction involving the subject of cloning that show us the dangers and the perils and how slippery of a slope that truly is. I'm curious, Grace, are you down with are you DTC? Are you down to clone?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. If there's one thing that Jurassic Park has taught us, it might be, dinosaurs are scary, but cloning never ends well. And it kind of freaks me out. Yeah, it's sad to lose a puppy and whatever, but I was on a couple websites today looking at some companies that offer this pet cloning, and I'm like, it's freaky and it's sad. Like the people, like the testimonials of these people, it makes me very sad. But no, absolutely not, no.
Yeah, I'm good on that, man.
Very, very interesting concept.
For sure. And I'm sure there's good parts of clone. I'm sure if you could clone food, maybe if you could clone some animals that can help solve world hunger and stuff like that. I'm sure there's another side of the coin. There always is. Well, not always, but a lot of the times there is. But I'm curious to hear more. Hopefully we can find someone to break this down. What are the benefits of cloning? Because it sounds like it's just kind of just a whole bizarre ordeal here that Tom Brady's found himself in. And again, just willingly shared that with the
Didn't
general
need to
populace.
know.
We did not need to know, and now we're all questioning everything in our lives. But I'm curious, and there's a whole list I'm looking at a list of things that have been cloned right here. Zebrafish, sheep, mice, pigs, beetles, cats, dogs, goats. Maybe Tom Brady clones himself. Speaking of goats, cloning the goats. I don't know if they meant the animal, if they meant Michael Jordan, or if they meant Tom Brady.
Maybe there's a clone of the afternoon shift that's out there somewhere. Somebody trying to do our product.
Maybe.
Yeah,
the midday shift.
Right.
The evening shift.
Fox Atlanta, Fox Milwaukee.
Oh,
Maybe we're trying to do it here. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully not. We're the one and only. You cannot clone us here on the afternoon shift.
No, you absolutely cannot. Also, by the way, I know we're going to get to Kaohly Her's victory speech. Is this the opening night for Purple Rain? Isn't this?
It is.
Is Grace going? Night. Grace, are you going tonight?
Grace
are you
is
going
to this Purple Rain musical?
Oh, you're so excited. We can't. Yep.
Okay, can you hear
me now? We got
Hopefully
you now,
that doesn't happen to Prince on stage tonight.
I know. I'm so excited to go. It's opening night. The show has been in previews for a few weeks now, and I have heard some mixed things about it. I've heard that it's pretty long, but we'll see if they shortened it. And this is the official production, so I'm really excited to see. It starts at 6:30, which is pretty early, but it seems like there's going to be some media stuff going on. They're expecting Justin Jefferson to be there, Governor Walz, even Spike Lee.
Spike Lee?
I know.
Skipping out of the Knicks Timberwolves game
right.
tonight.
He's not going to be in his trademark front row courtside seat to go see Purple Rain.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a big deal, you guys. I'm sure there'll probably be some members of Prince's family there. I don't know. I honestly have not read too much about it. I kind of want to go in as blind as I can. But yeah, I'm really excited. And yeah, tomorrow I think I'm going to fill you in. I'm kind of going to take over for you, Maxx, in a little bit. I hope that's all right.
Absolutely. You can fill those shoes admirably, Grace. Fresh Fromados from Grace Henry, all about the opening night of Purple Rain. That is if she doesn't get cast in the next Spike Lee flick.
That's right. That's right.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna go up to him and perform my monologue. I've been practicing all day. I'm gonna go up to him and be like, I need a role in the movie. So maybe I won't be the afternoon shift producer for much longer if I get discovered by Spike Lee.
Hey, good luck, Grace. We wish you the best. I should have said Spike Lee joint.
That's
Flick
right.
is not the right word. Spike Lee joint.
Yes,
that's how you refer to Spike Lee films, as a Spike Lee joint.
That's right. That's right.
Well, talk about pressure.
I know.
Yeah, you probably think you've been rehearsing for weeks. You're tweaking different parts of the script, whatever. I got it all down pat, and then you see not only people who knew Prince in real life, but the Spike Lee in the front row. I mean, that is talk about pressure.
I have one Spike Lee story.
You do?
I met him. I went to his house.
No way.
I sure
did.
His
house?
I did.
What do you mean you went to his house?
With Gayle King.
What?
I sure did.
What the hell? When did this happen?
I was 23 years old. I was
what?
I was working for.
You were a young thespian, an actor.
I was a young CBS This Morning overnight worker, and I got assigned this project with I just got waters and coffees for everybody.
Yeah.
But went to his house and they were doing something on the anniversary of Do the Right Thing. I forgot what it was, 30 years or 40 years, whatever it was. Went to his house. Gayle King did the interview with him, and then I got invited to the Do the Right Thing block party.
No way!
That weekend, and I was on the stage with. There's a picture of me and Dave Chappelle on the stage at the. I promise you, it's a real thing. I'm not going to show you during the break. I'm not making it up.
This sounds like Mad Libs. You were hanging out at Spike Lee's house with Gayle King on the stage with Dave Chappelle. How have you never? How's the story never been unraveled before?
I'm an onion. I've got many layers. Shout out to Dana Brewington. She was the producer, and Brittany Morgan. They were the producers of that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was a good. Wow. It was a good time.
Was he a good dude?
Great dude.
Talk to him
great
at
dude.
all?
Kind of short. Good dude
Heard
though.
that.
Yeah, I got coffee and croissants. Yeah. That's literally all I got. But yeah, yeah, it was fun. It was a fun morning. So and then obviously the Do the Right Thing block party that weekend.
That had to have been incredible.
Literally being on stage.
The actual boomboxes out and everything.
There was it was literally like everything. So
Radio
I will show everything during the commercial break.
I need to see this.
Yes.
I absolutely need to see this.
Yes.
I can't wait a second longer. Let's just go to commercial break. Go.
We'll be back. Yes. confirm I wasn't making it up.
You weren't making it up. It sounded like a Mad Lib. You're like, yeah, I was with Gayle King, working with Gayle King at Spike Lee's house, on stage with Dave Chappelle. Even a cameo appearance from a former New York City mayor, Eric Adams.
At that time, he was the Brooklyn Borough president.
Wow.
Mayor Eric Adams.
This was just the randomest meeting of the minds.
Yes.
At the Do the Right Thing 25-year anniversary party on top of it. What an incredible experience you had.
It was an incredible experience, and it's such a great film. That movie is so great, and the message of it is so true. Just doing the right. Sometimes it's the hard thing to do. But it's the right thing to do. Iconic Jackie Robinson jersey, obviously.
For sure.
And his character, his name is Mookie, right?
Mookie is the name of the character.
Just incredible symmetry there too. So Spike Lee, and listen, for those at home that don't know, Spike Lee is a super fan of the New York Knicks.
Super duper
for decades, going back to the 80s, always been at the Garden in the same seat courtside.
And he's there, what would you say, at least 30, 40? There's 41 home games a year. He's there almost all of them.
Time.
Almost every single one of them.
So the fact that he's not there tonight, especially a pretty big regular season game, I would say.
For sure. Against, the Timberwolves, I know we're biased here, but they are a young, exciting team.
In the Western Conference Finals.
And have a top 5, top 10 player in the NBA in Anthony Edwards, who's making his return tonight.
So for him to not be there and be in downtown Minneapolis tonight is a big deal for him.
That's a big deal, and that just speaks to how much Prince meant to him.
Yep.
And I'm curious if the cast, if the crew, if the production team with the Purple Rain musical has had any contact with Spike Lee. Maybe he had some notes.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll have some notes from after tonight. I'm very curious. But again, man, talk about pressure.
Yeah, a lot of pressure. He'll also have Grace Henry peering over his shoulder. So that's a lot of pressure there to have Grace Henry, the producer of the afternoon shift, peering over your shoulder.
Yeah, I'm the toughest critic. I was telling Max earlier today, but I took a reviewing class, a journalistic reviewing class in college, and that was the class I did the worst on. So it'll be interesting tomorrow, me coming in and trying to give a review, because apparently I'm a C student when it comes to that.
Well, we got faith in your first fresh fromatoes, Grace, and maybe we can all join in and talk about what we've been watching lately. I know. Are you just lost without Dodger baseball?
I don't know what to do at nights. I was having this conversation. I was
thinking about it last night. I wonder what Adam's doing right now with no Dodgers baseball. He just rewatching. He just starting that game one back again.
Just sit in a corner. I've started reading. Doing weird stuff.
Right.
It's just I don't. It's been part of my routine for the last 6-7 months now. I'm not gonna.
Sure.
I can't. I'm counting down that it's 98 days till pitchers and catchers.
They're almost back
for spring training. That's what I'm thinking about now.
I know. I just saw the Twins release their spring training schedule. It's just as soon as one cycle ends, the next cycle begins. That's the beauty and the curse of baseball.
It totally is. So maybe I'll have to hit some hockey games or some basketball games coming up here just to keep my mind occupied, because it's nothing. At least we got Notre Dame football. They're definitely in the mix. We got to bring Joe. We've had there's a lot of college football playoff people, and we got Joe Augustine, the Iowa Hawkeyes, they're ranked 20th.
Yeah.
Kelsey Carlson, the Indiana Hoosiers, they're ranked second.
It's a big deal. Because they revealed the first college football playoff
last night,
rankings last night. Do you remember the top 5 off your head? Who's in the rankings?
Ohio State, Indiana. I think maybe who's number 3? Is that Alabama's in the mix there? Maybe is it Georgia number 3 or something like that?
Do I have a list?
There it is. So A&M's number 3. Georgia's number 4. That's exactly it. And then number 5. Alabama's number 4. Pardon me. Georgia number 5. Ole Miss 6. BYU 7. So it's kind of around at the Memphis Tigers in there at number 12.
That's awesome. Shout out to the Memphis Tigers. They've had a hell of a season, and I think that's kind of a shock for many to see them in the college football playoff rankings. The first college football playoff rankings are when is it the finalized college football playoff?
So it'll be
bracket
after the last weekend of the regular season is Thanksgiving weekend, and then the conference championship weekend will be after that, and then you'll have the final polls, and then the playoff will start a couple weeks right around Christmas time. All that's when the polls will start.
And this is the first year with 12, right?
No, they did that last year.
12, okay.
It's going to expand a little bit, I think, more next year. So
next year.
But we don't have to worry about next year. All we're worried about is tomorrow with the afternoon shift.
Exactly, and we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. In the meantime, I remain Max Fuller.
Adam Llorens.
Signing off for Paul Milgate. This has been a Grace Henry joint, and the 5 o'clock news starts right about
now.